What's up, coin traders? Thanks for joining me for the show. Looking at Avalanche AVAX, AVAX on that ticker. Over the last day, saw a pretty big rejection from these exponential moving averages on this daily. So we're going to be talking about what this actually means for Avalanche now. But if we actually do flip over into the 2-day chart, do know that if you have been following the channel, we do love us. The 2-day chart right now has been extremely relevant, and a lot of these indications have been extremely applicable. So ever since getting our bullish cross here back in November, been riding a very nice continuous uptrend on these 2-day EMAs. And right now, what we see is actually a very nice defense in between the 26 and the 50-period EMA on this 2-day chart. And as you can see, if we look at the 26 and the 12, they do get pretty tight together, and that's why they're not as relevant as the gap that we do see between the 26 and 50. So if we turn off the 12, it's actually pretty relevant right now that you can see we have been getting kind of more or less this parallel channel just been riding up. And ever since prices do get and even wick down into this level, very nice dip buying in this range. So it's going to be extremely interesting to see what happens right now in this range, because we do have on the current 2-day a lower level on the 50 of 43.01. So prices can actually fall below that right now before maintaining. So even if you see a very quick dip, but a lot of quick buying and obviously a very nice close on this 2-day below that. So hopefully we don't actually get another scenario similar to what we actually experienced back on the 23rd of January candle. So have been riding a very nice channel to the upside, decreasing a bearish volume on this whole way. But we have been seeing that for all of cryptos, we do kind of more or less trade sideways, kind of in this slight uptrend for a lot of cryptos as well, as Bitcoin does start to sit sideways in this channel. So as you can see, Bitcoin right now still in consolidation, trying to figure out what's going to actually happen based on the upcoming halving. So a lot of predictions, and if you haven't seen the video from yesterday, go check it out, because we do talk about Bitcoin and whether or not we're going to see this bearish break to test prices back down into the 50 level, which would actually put prices on this previous level of resistance. So might be an actual nice time to see a pullback, because we have been talking about how the longer term chart for Bitcoin's overextended. But more or less, I digress. Back to the point of this channel is that we have been sitting sideways here now since the start of March. So for over about a month and a half here, just been sitting sideways waiting to see what happens with the upcoming halving. So ETF hype wearing off, and I think the Bitcoin halving is kind of going to be a non-event and kind of a sell the news event, which could have a huge impact on altcoins. But that's also sometimes when we actually see altcoins just spike and rally, because we haven't seen altcoins perform as well against Bitcoin as we have seen. So could see a very nice chance to actually have dominance pull back and have altcoins rally. So that could be a very nice opportunity and setup. But anyway, nonetheless, I digress. Back to Avalanche. So this is what we're looking at here in that scenario, is a very nice defense on this 2-day chart. Also on the 2-day chart, looking extremely nice technical indicators here are seen in RSI. That's an extremely normal and acceptable level. Now we did get overbought, but obviously with retracing and now pulling back inside this level, still a pretty good sign, and obviously needing to see the stochastic RSI have a nice bullish cross and rally up, which could be another good indication that we're seeing a floor right now and a very nice support point coming in between the 26 and 50. Now, besides an optimistic outlook, do want to talk about some resistance points and obviously support points here, because we do have a pretty big resistance point coming in right at the $50 psychological level. As we can see, that also kind of aligns with where this 12-period EMA is. Did get a very big resistance point coming in and confirmed on the close of these 2-day candles. So we would need to see a break and close not only on top of the 12. Let's actually clean this up here. Not only a break and close on top of the 12 period. Well, first we are going to be looking at the 26, which does come in at 47.51, followed by the 12 at 49.14. Above that, the $50 psychological. So a very big zone of resistance up overhead. And with minimal volume coming in, we're not necessarily guaranteed to see that anytime soon, unless the rest of crypto space does just start to get a very nice optimistic outlook and a very nice bullish break from a lot of the patterns that we're sitting in here for the last month or so. So obviously not the most common scenario and the most likely at this point. So still probably going to see a little bit of pullback, especially after losing a very nice $50 psychological support point. Saw a very nice defense as indicated by these lower shadows. So we were looking at a close of about 53.26 for closing level of support on this 2-day chart here. But looking left, big point of previous resistance. If we actually do want to look down for supports though, big point of support coming in pretty much right around the 55. On the current, we did set support for the close at 45.26 here. So obviously a lot of supports to the downside as well. And then even below that, looking at a pretty big support point coming in right around 41.58. as indicated by previous closing support and also previous closing resistance, and big rejection here as indicated by these upper wicks. So kind of the overall point here is that no matter if we do see more bullish upside or even a pullback, got plenty of things to fall back on the downside. Like we said, 50 EMA support's going to be huge. And then also the $45 support range is going to be big as well. Even if we drop below that, big support coming in all the way down to about the $40 psychological level. And then that would start to be a little bit more of a cause concern from some longer term pullback, especially after losing this very nice uptrend as indicated by these EMAs, since path of least resistance is still very much to the upside here. Now flipping over into the weekly, extremely good setup right now on the weekly, especially most notably since we are still riding this very nice 12-period EMA, which kind of aligns just about where we were seeing the 50-period EMA on the 2-day. So ever since having this very nice bullish break on top of the 12-period EMA for the weekly, confirmed it as support and now have been holding it and riding it. And every single test that we do get below that, extremely quick dip buying to push prices back on top of that. And that's actually why we see a little bit of an air gap now in between the closes on these weekly candles, because we see so much dip buying on top of this 12-period exponential moving average. So the other good thing that we're looking at right now is these 4 small bearish bodies over the last month. So kind of a continuous linear downtrend here, especially now riding up right along and confirming, especially the previous week, kicking off of this 12-period EMA. So 4 weeks, and we've talked about this before, fitting inside one extremely nice bullish bar. And as you can see, less than halfway through the current bar, but extremely low volume. So right now about 1.5 million compared to previous week 5.5. So would expect to get around the same or less volume, which would mean tapering off sell pressure. So good sign that we're seeing this type of chart formation with decreased sell pressure, especially fitting inside this type of one bullish candle. Now, like we said, 4 weeks, so it has been a long time and we have been sitting here patient, but a lot of good things, especially confirming support. So I wouldn't actually expect that much more downside selling pressure to come in, especially when we do talk about the $45 level again. So looking left, big point of resistance and now finding support previously, as well as this 12-period EMA. And that's also where the 2-day EMA is going to line up for the 50, especially if we do hold and rally up, would be sitting right at the $45 level in that instance. So a lot of good things right now on the weekly on this run up, increasing a bullish volume here, as we can see, obviously topping out at our current high right now. And so even looking back at the previous pullback that kicked off last time after 5 weeks on this downtrend here after this pullback, rejecting from right around the $50 level, that was our previous resistance point, rejecting from the 50 psychological, pulling back after 5 weeks. And then even in that instance as well, decreasing sell pressure. So we know that on these pullbacks, we're not necessarily seeing continued pullback action, which does still mean continued uptrend. So sitting at a very nice spot right now, and even from current price points up to the current trend high, looking at about a gain of 40%. So dip buying, not necessarily financial advice, but if you do want 40% up to the next trend high, that is what you would be expecting from here, especially with a lot of downside supports. So a lot of potential for upside. Downside support has a lot of potential for seeing that support, especially since we are continuing this longer, greater term uptrend, especially as we do enter this longer term bullish cycle. Now, I do want to pull up technical indicators right now for the AVAX chart, because we are looking at decreased and lower highs right now on this move. So lower high with higher high in price are getting that bearish divergence here, which does mean a slowing down trend. Obviously, as you can see, if we do turn off the RSI or pull them down, you can just see how much bullish volume we actually saw on this initial rally, and then kind of a little bit more sporadic mixed in with a little bit more selling pressure. So not necessarily to say we're going to get a reversal here at this point, but obviously we are starting to get a little bit more of those indications of some of that bearish divergence coming in, which does mean a slowing down trend. And then also now, if we do look at stochastic RSI, didn't even necessarily get the stochastic RSI above the 80 line here, indicating a little bit more of those overbought conditions. So it is a little bit slower, so we could see a roll down again, but that also means that we would be looking for a little bit more support, which means the next leg to the upside. On this weekly, if we do want to actually zoom out a little bit more, there's a few price points that we're going to be looking at up overhead. First one's going to be coming in at pretty much right around the $70 level, and next right above that is pretty much going to be coming in at the $80 level. So those going to be a very big resistive zone once we actually do start to see a little bit more growth. So this is going to be a huge target that we see, and likely if we do get the next big break, I could see this being the next big target to the upside, especially if we look at the previous level. So we went from about 27 all the way up to 50, or 65, excuse me, so about 132% gain. So if we do look at that from current prices, we would be looking at 55 to about a 75% gain. So an extremely normal and a realistic expectation for a target to the upside to think that we could be getting that on the next leg of upside movement. If we look at a stochastic, or excuse me, a Fibonacci extension rather, from the previous trend high down to the low, that would be an extremely nice target for us to see sitting in between the 1.618 and 2.618 extension. So that would be a very nice opportunity to see that kind of upside gain. And then, like we said, looking left, big point of resistance and supports on this whole way. So an extremely relevant technical indication as well. And then finally, if we do pull up or turn on the VPVR volume profile visible range, you can see that that's kind of the next start of mass amount of volume before we actually start to get into the next amount of highs. So we could see a very nice opportunity for sitting there before actually confirming, back testing, and then seeing a rally on the current bull cycle to see the next all-time high come in. Obviously, a little bit of speculation, moonboy type stuff, nothing going to happen in the immediate short-term future. We're talking probably a couple months away from anything at a minimum of seeing this target come in. But nonetheless, those are our upside targets if we actually do look at that, because we're sitting right now, especially on this pullback, sitting on a lot of very nice previous trading mass. So that is pretty much what we are going to be looking at and expecting, that we have another nice opportunity to actually see prices rally up into that $70 to $80 zone as a little bit more of that long-term target. With that, though, actually going to go ahead and wrap up the show on Avalanche AVAX. If you did enjoy, please hit the thumbs up, like, and subscribe if you have not done so just yet, and also drop me a comment below. You can also drop me a comment below if you do have any issues, disagreements, predictions, all that kind of stuff. Do love getting back to each and every one of you on everything. Also, make sure to drop me a follow on Twitter at @coin_trades. Do love chatting with everyone over there as well. That is going to go ahead and wrap it up for the show, though, so hope everyone enjoyed. Do appreciate all the continuous love and support, as always, does mean so much. Stay safe, take care, everyone. I'll catch you back in the next video.